Hey everyone, I'm Suzanne Lively. Welcome to A Lively Perspective. On this channel, I share with you family life, my love of homeschooling, and my passion for everything book related. In today's video, I'm going to share with you some Christmas reads that you can do with your children this Christmas. I am including chapter books so that they're much quicker read, and I'm also including quite a few middle grade, and I'm going to give you a variety of options to choose from. Now, we're going to read as many as we can this Christmas as always, but I know not everybody has the time to do that. But I'm going to give you a few options that you can choose from to read with your family. And I love reading books with my daughter. I feel so connected with her, and it's such a wonderful shared experience. I think it's a great idea to do during the busy Christmas season and the night when you're kind of tuckered out, you don't want to do anything else. This is an option. We watch a lot of Christmas shows over Christmas. I know we all want to do that as well, but this is a way to have even more intimacy with your kids. And like I said, I'm going to give you some options, and I'll share with you what we're going to read this Christmas. Now, the first book you've probably seen around because this movie was just released on Netflix, and we've seen the trailers and it looks so good. But I went out and got the book first, and this is A Boy Called Christmas, and this is by Matt Haig. He has a series of books. Now, we haven't actually read any of them. I've heard great things about them, but I wanted to have a read with Vivian before we watch that show. That'll be a lot of fun to read the book together and then have a movie night after reading this book. Another middle grade we're going to read this year, and the audio book for this is amazing. And it's called The Vanderbeakers of 141st Street. And this is by Karina Young Glasser. And this is about a family of five, a biracial family of five that live in Harlem. And one of the things we love about this book is the community is so tight-knit, like in the neighborhood. And the kids are loving and they're a lot of fun. They always have some sort of adventure / mishap in each of the books. This is a series, but mind you, this is the very first one. And the reason that I've chosen it to read again this year, which my daughter liked it so much, she's totally into reading it again this year, is that it's based during Christmas time. It takes place during Christmas. And, you know, this family has lived in this particular brownstone for years. And suddenly they get a notice that they have to vacate. The landlord that lives upstairs, you know, there's 1, 2, 3 units. The kids are in the basement. And the landlord that owns the building is on the top floor, and he's kicked them out. They have to be out by the end of December. So they're out. The kids are out to convince the landlord to let them stay. And honestly, it's such a feel-good book. I was really happy when I asked my daughter if she wanted to read it again this year. I highly recommend this one. And like I said, this is on audiobook. We listen to it on audiobook. I personally have a difficult time reading books that have a lot of voices because we tend to get confused. My daughter gets confused if they all sound the same, of course. So I definitely look for the audiobook for these kind of big family books, and this did not disappoint. Now, a book I picked up from the library that I had never actually heard of is called When Santa Fell to Earth. The reason it caught my attention is because the author is Cornelia Funk. I loved her Inkheart series. And even the movie for that is fun. And what I also liked about it is it's a very small read. So if you only wanted to read one book over Christmas, this you could definitely get through, you know, reading a little bit each night. Yeah, look. There's little illustrations throughout, which I think is a lot of fun. Okay, Nicholas sighed. Maybe it's time to tell at least one child what happened to Christmas. So Santa has landed in a lot of trouble, but luckily he landed in a very safe neighborhood. Gerald Geronimus Globlinch plans to put an end to children's wishes and turn the holiday season into his personal money-making scene. Only Santa stands between him and his Grinch-like tricks. With the help of the kids, Charlotte and Ben, Santa will have to face him and his Nutcracker goons if he's ever to rescue Christmas. Ooh, more Nutcrackers. Although these might not be the friendly ones. And speaking of the Nutcracker, as I mentioned in our video about all the books we're getting our daughter for Christmas, she being my daughter, loves the Nutcracker. Now I have this little Usborne young reader, and we were going to read it last year, and I don't think we did, so I'm definitely going to read it this year. Now this is a very easy reader. She could read this one to me. But the illustrations are beautiful and it's a really quick read. Also from the Usborne Young Readers, I had Christmas Around the World, and we're doing quite a few little books from Christmas Around the World just to give us that flavor, and it's going to be part of our Christmas studies this year. And the last one from that Usborne series I have is A Christmas Carol. And of course, this is by Charles Dickens, and this is an abridged version. Oh. And we're also doing a little study on Charles Dickens this year. So if that interests you, make sure you're subscribed to see that when I upload it. It's part of my Vlogmas series this year. Magic Tree House. Now, we hadn't read the Magic Tree House in a year, at least 2. We read a lot of them when my daughter was younger and absolutely loved them. But we have a couple pulled out for this Christmas. And this one is A Ghost Tale from Christmas Time, where the children go back and have a positive influence and a much needed influence on Charles Dickens. And it's the Christmas that he writes A Christmas Carol, so they influence that in a very positive way. And I have to admit, we read this already. My daughter was so excited to see a Magic Treehouse book and to go back into that world. And this was one we hadn't actually read. So that's done. But they also have a Magic Treehouse research guide, Rags and Riches, Kids in the Time of Charles Dickens. So like I said, we are doing a little study on Charles Dickens. And, you know, there's only so many days before Christmas, so it'll be a light study about Charles Dickens, but definitely a bigger introduction than we've ever had in the past. So that I look forward to that as well. Also in the same vein, we have a theme this Christmas. We're going to study New York and Christmas. We did a little bit last year for sure, but I've added a whole bunch of new things. And my daughter's a little bit older, so we can get more in depth with other things. I've created a whole list of books we're going to read and videos we're going to watch on YouTube, that sort of thing. And I'm mentioning it now because that's the other Magic Treehouse book that we're going to read. Now, we did read this last year, but we're going to read it again this year. It's called Blizzard of the Blue Moon. And the kids end up going to New York during the Depression time. But it introduced you to different places in New York. For example, when we read this last year, it was the first time I ever heard of the cloisters in New York. That museum just wasn't known to me. So it's really fun when you can read these type of books and be introduced to real places and real museums in the world and times in history. So I love the Magic Treehouse for that. The other Magic Treehouse book that I'm going to read is, and this is again is a reread, but this one is Christmas in Camelot, and the kids go back and have to basically save Camelot and King Arthur. And this was in one of the last hauls that I showed anyway. The Sword in the Stone by T.H. White. And I've never read this version, so I thought these two would be great to read and keep the magic going in between Christmas and New Year. So I'm going to put together a few little things to study Camelot and just, keep that magic going in between. If you're interested, I'll be putting that little study up as part of Vlogmas. So you don't have to be a homeschooler to do those things. Yeah, you don't have to be a homeschooler to appreciate those unit studies with your kids, because I'm going to have a lot of things you just click on. It opens up storybooks that are read on YouTube, opens up little videos of things that are happening during the Christmas season in New York, for example. It's a good time. Definitely you might have fun with that in an evening or two with your kids. Yeah, check it out for sure. I'm really excited. I put a lot of effort into this one this year, and I'm giving a lot so that anybody can use it as much or as little as you want to, but that there's enough there for you to have a good time with your kids. I absolutely love these Who HQ books. I threw this in here. This one is What is the Statue of Liberty? And Where is the Empire State Building? Now, we know a lot of this, but one of the things I love about these HQ books is they always have things that I don't know, and it's so palatable, and they're always such an easy read. Depending on the subject, we've read them all in one sitting, and other ones we've read a few pages and covered it over a week or two. It depends on what the topic is and our mood, obviously. Now, an adorable Christmas read, if you can get your hands on it, it's Tum Tum and Nutmeg. Now, this particular book I bought off Book Outlet, and it's the Rose Cottage Adventures, and it has, oh, how many? I can't even remember. Oh, it has three books in one. But the reason that I wanted it was a Christmas adventure. So the very first story in here is a Christmas adventure. And we have read actually the other two, a Seaside Surprise and a Circus Adventure. but we had never read A Christmas Adventure. It wasn't in our public library. And at the time I was looking for it quite a few years ago. It seemed like I would have had to pay quite a bit to get it in my hand. So I never did. When I saw this on Nutmeg and that story was included, I grabbed it as soon as I could. I think it's going to be such an adorable read at Christmas time. I always feel so good when I read Nutmeg and Tum Tum. I said it backwards, but Tum Tum and Nutmeg, same thing. If you're wondering where all the picture books are in this list for Christmas, because you love reading picture books with your kid, I'm with you. I absolutely love picture books, and especially during Christmas holidays. But I've put those in our Advent. So our book Advent this year, that's a new tradition we're starting. Check that video out if you want to see those picture books, those amazing Christmas picture books. All right, the next two middle grade books I'm going to show you are not Christmas themed. They don't take place during Christmas. They do take place in New York. And the first one I put in there because the thing that did remind me of Christmas with this book is the feel good that I get like at Christmas time and that wholesome, happy family feeling. I get this when I read these books about the Mendy family, and these are by Elizabeth Enright. This is the very first one we ever read. Again, we read this on audiobook or listened to this on an audiobook, which we'll do again because they have a lot of kids. This is another big family. Now they're based in New York, and which is why I thought of it for this season as well, because of, like I said, the New York study. But I love this book. So it has the same, it's a win-win in my book. And in this particular book, the kids have decided that if they pooled all their money together, they could do a lot more with their allowance. So everybody puts their allowance from 1 week together, and one kid gets the allowance and gets to go do an adventure that they choose of their choice. And yeah, it feels so good. Yeah, I fell in love with this series when I listened to this, and I discovered, maybe I'm behind the times, but this is an older book. What year was it published in? I'll look. I don't even know. The Melendi. Oh yeah, and they're the Melendi family. I think I said Mendy, but they're Melendi. Okay, 1941. This was originally published. Now, I found this because I had read a New York Times article about the Vanderbeakers 141st Street, and they referred to books that were published years ago with the big family and all the camaraderie in the neighborhood, that sort of thing. This was on that list. So because I love the Vanderbeakers, I thought I'd try this out, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. The other one I discovered from that article was the Penderwicks, and I love the Penderwicks as well. Also on audiobook because there's so many kids, so many voices. The final book I'm going to share with you, we have had on our shelves, I don't know for how long, quite a long time now. And I have the first two. This is also a series. And this first one is called The Story Collector. And I added it in because, one, I've been dying to read it. But this was a great excuse because it takes place in the New York Public Library. And these are two kids grow up living in their parents or their dad is the maintenance person for the New York Public Library. And they live upstairs. And they solve a mystery in this one. Now, this is based on a family that actually did live in an apartment above the public library. I think her dad might have been an engineer. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And her name is Vivienne. My daughter's is Vivian. Not quite the same, but she originally makes a joke that the library is haunted, and she decides to scare her friend with that. Then a few things happen, and she starts to wonder if the library really is haunted, so they need to solve that mystery. And again, I've heard really great things about this. I can't wait to dive into it myself. All right, those are all the books I'm going to share with you. I hope you found something that you could enjoy with your family this Christmas. If so, please leave it in the comments below or any other books you think we might enjoy, and I will see you soon with another video.